Russian President Vladimir Putin is on a state visit to China to deepen what he describes as an unprecedented level of ties between the two allies against the backdrop of Moscow's war in Ukraine. Officials greeted Mr. Putin when he touched down in Beijing for the start of the two-day trip that includes meetings with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang. It's the first trip abroad for Mr. Putin since he was inaugurated for his fifth term. The leaders are expected to exchange views on what they describe as international and regional issues of common concern.
China and Russia regard each other as comprehensive strategic cooperation partners in the new era, and our relations have continued to develop in a healthy and stable manner, with the leaders of the two countries maintaining close contact.
Mr. Putin was most recently in China last year, and before that in 2022 for the Beijing Winter Olympics, when both leaders stressed their relationship had no limits with no forbidden areas of cooperation. Just days later, Russia invaded Ukraine. While China claims to take a neutral position on the war, it has backed Moscow, saying it was provoked by the West into attacking Ukraine.
There are items on the agenda that will be the underwater part of the iceberg that will be not publicized but will be really key for Russia, and that's continued access to the dual-use goods and other critical components that feed the Russian military machine.
Mr. Putin's trip comes as Russia presses ahead with a new incursion in northeastern Ukraine and advances towards the country's second-largest city, Kharkiv. Fierce fighting has displaced thousands of people in the border region. This visit is unlikely to see China push back against Russia's military objectives.
The most important message that usually comes out of these top leader meetings, which is that China and Russia are not going to abandon each other. They are going to continue their alignment vis-a-vis the United States and vis-a-vis the US-led so-called West.
Western sanctions have crippled and isolated Russia, making it more economically dependent on China. Beijing too stands to benefit from a strengthened alliance with Moscow. The Kremlin has long been sharing sensitive military technologies, which could further bolster China's defence capabilities. The Biden administration and its allies will be closely monitoring the visit.
We find it unacceptable that the Chinese companies are helping Putin wage this war against Ukraine. And if China purports to want good relations with Europe and other countries, it cannot continue to fuel the biggest threat to European security right now.
I think we need to pay some attention, not simply to geopolitics, but to the fact that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin share something else that's more ineffable and more complex and psychological in common. Namely, they are authoritarian leaders who deeply want to be respected and let into the world community. But the fact that they are autocracies prevent that. And so they are filled with a deep and abiding sense of grievance. And I think it is this, as much as anything, that ties them together.